At least 18 boys have died in the Eastern Cape since the start of the summer initiation season. 4 other boys have died in 2 other provinces. There have been growing calls for an investigation into the circumstances leading to the deaths. So, well, on the line now we are joined by the department's MEC Fikile Xasa, and also we have in the studio with us Prince Manene Tabane, who is a National Executive Committee member of the Congress of Traditional Leaders, that is Contra Lesa. Now, MEC, can I start with you first from the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department in the Eastern Cape? Your overriding sense of what's been happening with the initiation season there now that the Eastern Cape has lost 18 boys.
First, Dan, we are sympathizing with the parents who have lost their children. And generally, the efforts that we have put in terms of dealing with this issue is beyond description, in that we have legislated this matter is a family matter, but because of the number of deaths that we have experienced as a province, we decided to pass legislation. We are now in the second year enforcing the law, but the results are not as positive as we expected. We also invested a lot of money and effort into it, in that some NGOs whose membership is mainly medical doctors funded by other bodies, have helped us to make sure that everybody is aware about the law, everybody is aware about the challenges that confront boys when they are there. But despite that, we have lost 18. Generally, I can say we are discouraging parents from taking their boys to the initiation schools in summer because it's very hot. We have lost 5 boys around Queenstown, which is a very hot place. And now what we are observing in the province is that there are areas where this thing was not a problem. But this time, they are all affected. Amatole around Tendane and Willowvale, we have lost 3 boys there. We have also lost 3 boys around Alfred and so. But generally, when we look at the Alfred and so situation, 1 boy hanged himself, he committed suicide, and another one, it was a problem of renal failure. And so out of the 3, 2 can say it's an accident, and the other one was vomiting. So it's an area that we use not to have anybody dying. Around BCM as well, Buffalo City Metro. We also lost 3 boys. 1 was burnt to death in his sleep in the initiation hut. So that was an accident, if I can put it that way. And another one was attacked by asthma, partly accident, I can call it that way. But the rest of the boys are killed by dehydration and septicemia.
The picture you are painting, Mr. Xasa, is really tragic in terms of the various causes of the deaths of the boys. Now, we know that initiation is part of African culture in parts of South Africa. I mean, part of our national groups do that all the time, part of our people. It's not going to go anywhere. Prince Mane, let me bring you Prince Tabane. When you hear those numbers and the conditions under which the boys are dying, as Contra Lesa, what do you have to say? Because yesterday morning I spoke to a spokesperson of the government in the Eastern Cape who said part of the problem is the illegal initiation schools, one aspect. Now the MEC is saying they've advised parents not to take boys to initiation in summer because of challenges like dehydration, because it's very hot. What's the view of Contra Lesa about what's been going on?
Thank you, Mr. Den. I think we are at pains as traditional leaders that each year we lose these boys. under the name of our culture, which is not good at all. But let's also appreciate what the government is doing in trying to assist in curbing this unnecessary death in the initiation schools. But moreover, I would still go back to the point that this cultural practice was under the authority of the traditional leaders. But then what we have noticed now, the traditional leaders, they do not have powers which they used to possess before, say before the advent of the democracy, now which also contributes to the challenges. If I make an example, look what the good initiatives that are taken by the Eastern Cape in particular to say around the initiation season, they will avail in terms of the resources, the transport that will go to the initiation schools, and that will patrol and do everything, including other NGOs that are assisting. But in that process, the traditional leaders, I think they are left behind, because if those resources were given to the traditional leaders, I think it will assist a great deal. Otherwise, if we don't empower the traditional leaders, it will be a problem. We need to capacitate the traditional leaders in terms of the resources so that these processes, these challenges, they can address them right throughout the year. We need not to wait when that season comes so that we can then start to say we are on the move assisting this.
Mr. Xasa, how do you respond to that call by Contralesa here to say, let's empower the traditional leaders to ensure that we manage initiation better and avoid deaths?
Well, Prince Tabane is a member of Contralesa, but it would have been good if it was somebody from the Eastern Cape. I think the law that we passed in 2016 is actually empowering traditional leaders to take charge of the custom, because the Constitution prescribes that traditional leaders should take charge of that. At every level in the province, starting at the level of the province, the chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders is the convener of our provincial coordinating team. And at the level of each district, the traditional leaders, the chairpersons of the local houses of traditional leaders are chairing such forums, even going down to the level of the space of that traditional leader. In fact, we are expecting traditional leaders to account for some of the things that are coming out of that's what we are doing now currently. The minister nationally is expecting me to account about each death. And I'm doing that currently. And I expect each traditional leader to account about each death in his or her own area.
Okay, Mr. Xasa, it seems like in the Eastern Cape, Eastern Cape you are managing, you're working well together with traditional leaders. But where do you think we're failing? Because boys are still dying. I just want to bring you there as we go towards the end of the interview. Where are we having?
Yeah, can I get into the point as the MEC has alluded to that fact? Let's make an example. At a certain area where the traditional leader is in charge of that jurisdiction, how do you ascribe a situation where an initiate would then go to an initiation school without informing a traditional leader, but simply because he's got a medical certificate that he has done a pre-medical screening, then will just go straight to the initiation school. Even that traditional leader at a certain area will be shocked when these reports the reports are made to him to say, at your area we have lost an initiate. My point is that how does that happen? Because even that medical certificate should have been taken to a traditional leader, that it be reported that the traditional leader, we've got boys that are going to the initiation schools. These are the documents that they have. But it seems as if now these documents, they just empower parents and the boys to say, go to the initiation schools. Without at a certain area, a traditional leader is aware of that. But it should be central.
Yeah, you believe in awareness and the knowledge by traditional leader will help stop the deaths?
Definitely. And awareness and the knowledge by a traditional leader. Because the traditional leader, as the MEC has alluded, will be held responsible should anything happens if he knows all the initiation schools around his area, and he knows these boys, he knows the parents, he knows even the traditional nurses that are there. Because some of the traditional nurses, even a traditional leader, will be shocked to hear that so and so is a traditional nurse without knowing
Okay, Prince Tabane is making a very strong point there, Mr. Xhasa, of involvement of traditional leaders. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, but I want to give you the last word, just very briefly. I've heard reports, and I need you to confirm what will be the next steps, that the Eastern Cape government is calling for the NPA to investigate, to intervene in the deaths of these 18 boys who've died in the Eastern Cape during this summer initiation season. Is that the case, and what's the next step there?
No, the National Prosecuting Authority and the South African Police Service are part of the program. 10 traditional surgeons have been arrested already for illegal circumcision. In all the cases, we have opened cases. They are at the stage of inquest. We are engaging the South African Police Service. We are engaging National Prosecuting Authority. We want people arrested and charged for this reckless action, if I can put it that way. So generally now, we want to firm up this strong arm tactic to say anybody who commits anything that leads to boys dying must be arrested. But of course, we would always ask parents to cooperate with us because we need evidence. We would also always ask the boys as well, those who might be still alive, to be prepared to be witnesses, because at times when we take some of these people, these traditional surgeons and nurses, to court, we usually lose there because of lack of evidence.
Okay, Mr. Xhasa, thank you very much for that. We'll await then the process of that investigation by the NPA. And Prince Tabane, thank you very much for coming and sharing your views there as well.
Thank you.